welcome to Conquer Your Chaos, Simple Strategies for Healthy Living. My name is Jennifer Shlomovich and I'm a certified coach. Today I really wanted to talk about 3 things that I wish my mom had known that would have saved her life. So just a quick summary as to what happened to my mom. She had a heart attack 13 and a half years ago. I had seen her the night before. Everything seemed okay. We had a nice little conversation. And then that next morning, I got a horrible call saying that she had a heart attack in a shopping center. And she was in the hospital for 3 days before passing away. And for about a year or so after that had happened, I used to have a reoccurring dream where I would go back in time to the day that I saw her, which was right before it had happened, warning her that she had to go to the hospital immediately to get herself checked out because something bad was going to happen to her the next day if she didn't go get herself checked out. So what happened to my mom really had a powerful impact in how I started taking action in my own life. And that eventually led to me becoming a coach to help other women live their best lives. And so yesterday I had a conversation with another coach where I was talking about what had happened to my mom and how that inspired me in my mission. And what came up in that conversation was I had mentioned how there were things that I wished my mom had known that would have saved her life. And it just felt really powerful when I said that. And I took some time to journal about what were those things. And so I came up with 3 specific ones that I really wanted to share with you in hopes that it will help you in your own journey to creating a fulfilling life. So I have some notes that I'm going to be looking down at from time to time to make sure I cover these points. So item number 1 is your health is your number 1 priority. Yes, we have a lot of other priorities in our lives that are very, very important, like our family and children and jobs and other things. But if you don't take care of you and your well-being, then you're not going to be any good to anyone else, especially if your body literally falls apart. So our health has to be our number 1 priority, because otherwise we're just not going to be able to function, or we could have really severe health problems that could evolve over time if we don't take good care of ourselves. So it's really important to take time out to make your regular doctor's appointments. General practitioners, so you can get your blood sugar and cholesterol and other levels checked every year. Very, very important. OBGYN, mammograms, dentist, eye doctor, dermatology too. There's mixed, I've heard mixed things. You should go every 2 years for the dermatologist, and some say every year. I was going like every year, but I've started going once a year. My doctor likes to do the visits once a year. It's so important to get everything checked out. And sure, it can be scary. Sometimes there's this ignorance is bliss mentality where it's like, oh, I don't want to know what's going on with me. But that's not going to make it go away by avoiding it. So it's so important to just take that time out, get yourself checked. And if there is something that's not right or something that needs improvement on, you'll know immediately when you go, and then you'll know what you need to work on. And if you go every year and everything is in good shape, and then all of a sudden 1 year you go and something shifts, then you know, oh, this needs my attention. And again, it's so important to monitor these things. And I feel like especially moms, and not just moms do this, but I'm going to single out moms because I'm a mom and I know a lot of other moms who do this. It's so easy to push your own needs aside and your own health and well-being aside because you're too busy focusing on your children and your family and your job, and you're pulled in 9,000 directions. The last thing you think you have time for is going to the doctor. And I really started making this a priority when about 2012, I went to an OBGYN appointment and I had my blood pressure checked. And my doctor said, "You have high blood pressure. Do you have a general practitioner?" And I was like, "Not really." I mean, I had moved to New York City like 5 years before then, and I did go to one, but I hadn't gone in a while. Everything was fine, so I just didn't keep going. But I would go to my other doctor, my dentist and eye doctor, and I didn't spend time to go search out a general practitioner for a while because the last time I went, everything was fine. And when I would go to my other doctor, my blood pressure was fine. So I thought, okay, everything was fine. So that freaked me out. And so, yeah, that was 8 years ago. And so I needed to start watching sodium in my diet and minimizing that. And then there was that was not long after that, I started playing around with being vegan and vegetarian to really help with my health. Like, I lost a lot of weight before then because I was over 200 pounds at one point. In 2009, I had dropped a lot of that extra weight. So my weight was in a decent range. And so I went to the general practitioner. I found a doctor that I liked, and I had to go back in 6 months, and things started getting better. And since then, especially with what did happen with my mom and seeing in my own health how things could just shift dramatically. One moment you're fine, and all of a sudden you have high blood pressure. So I pay attention. I go every year to get that checked out. And I actually just went to my general practitioner last week, and surprised to see that I'm starting to have high blood pressure and cholesterol going up, which is surprising because as a vegan, that usually is not the case, but it can happen if there's genetics. And I know since I've been working from home a lot, I do less walking, so that could be an impact. It's something I'm working on with my doctor right now. Everything else is fine, and it's not like dramatic, but it's now climbed in the range where it's like, I don't want, if I don't do anything about it now, it could just spiral. So circling back to why it's so important to monitor our health is, and we can even feel fine, but we don't realize what's going on until we have our blood checked. There's been a couple of occasions where I have been pre-diabetic, and I've reversed that because I started taking action and making sure eating foods that would support me in reversing that. So a lot of our health conditions, we can take control over our health just through the food that we eat and making better choices in that. That can play a huge role in our health and well-being. And yes, there's other factors too, exercise and so on, but food is a really good place to start to taking action with our health. So make sure you prioritize your health, and if you haven't gone in a while, go make your appointments right now. So the second thing I wish my mom knew is saying no is not selfish. And saying no can be very, very hard. It's easy to feel guilty. You don't want to let people down. But when you're saying no to other people, It allows you to say yes to yourself and yes to your needs. How many of you have said yes to other people when you didn't really want to, and then your own needs got compromised in some way? I know I've certainly been guilty of that. And I've been really working hard on, over the years, setting boundaries. And my mom struggled with this. She did a lot for people and in her life, and she was very loving and very giving, to the point where she gave too much of herself and she didn't give any of herself to herself. And that, I know, really had a big impact. And all of these things that I'm sharing, they're all, even though they're separate categories, they all connect and interweave. Because if you're not saying no to other people and you're constantly saying yes to what everyone else wants, then how are you going to have time to go to the doctor and monitor your own needs and take time out for your own self-care? And self-care shows up in so many ways. It's more than bubble baths and facials. That's part of it, but doctor's appointments are part of self-care. Saying no and setting boundaries with other people is also part of self-care. And one of the things I really wanted to talk about here is healthy giving. There are some people who you can help and they genuinely want to help themselves and get back on track, and they just need a little bit of help just to get themselves going again. And then there's other people who chronically take advantage of other people and they constantly need to be bailed out or other people to do things for them. And there's a famous proverb, which is, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. And if you teach a man how to fish, then you're feeding him for a lifetime. So that goes back to the same thing. When we give to people who don't want to help themselves, we're not really helping them because they're not learning to be self-sufficient. So one thing that I've learned to do that's been very helpful with this is, instead of, if you want to give something helpful, recommend resources, recommend organizations or places that can help somebody with that specific situation that they're struggling with. So I'm not saying don't help people, but make sure that you have boundaries around that and you're not giving too much of yourself to the point where your energy is being depleted, your own financial resources aren't being depleted. Make sure you have boundaries in place, because boundaries are a really important form of self-care, and not having them in place is going to impact your own well-being in many, many ways. And I really want to do more videos on boundaries, and we'll certainly dive into that topic at other points. Let's see. I think I covered all of what I wanted to cover in that topic. And so the third thing that I wish my mom knew was, there's no such thing as the right time to do something. So my mom, and I mentioned this a lot in my video, the one day trap. She would be, one day I'll do this and one day I'll do that. And then one day didn't happen for her. And I didn't want to be like that, because I would do the same thing and wait for the right time. And there's never the right time. If we want something to change in our life, we have to take the action steps to make it change in our life now. And sometimes we get so caught up in the final outcome instead of focusing on the little action steps, the little baby steps that will get us there. It's that consistency, practicing consistency and focusing on progress instead of perfection. I wanted to share with you a quote from a letter my mom had wrote me back in 2000. This is when I was going to college, and email was around then. This is in May 2000, actually 7 years before her heart attack. She had a heart attack in May of 2007. And yeah, so we had email, but she liked to write letters, and I kept a lot of these letters, and I unpacked these letters maybe 5 years ago now, and I was rereading them, and this particular one really stuck with me. And there's something that she said in here particularly that really haunted me. And she says, "I must concentrate on losing more weight, getting my body restored to good health, and eliminating the stressors in my life that sometimes threaten to devour me." And that haunted me for a really long time, because literally all of these things that she said, working on her weight, getting her body restored to good health, eliminating stress, all these things, 7 years later, she didn't eliminate any of those things, didn't do any of that, and it killed her. And so it just made me realize the importance of just taking action now and not waiting for the right time, the perfect moment. The perfect moment is right now. And if there's something that you want to change in your life, all you need to do is get clear on what it is, why it's important to you, and what you can do about it right now to get yourself started. Thanks for joining me today. I really hope that this video has inspired you to take action in your life, to make sure that you are taking care of your health, setting the boundaries you need to set in your life, and to start taking action to make those changes that you want to happen right now. And if you want to have more support with that, you can schedule a discovery call with me. I'll leave the link down below in the show notes. Thanks again, take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye.